Hello, so we're going to look at a little help video just for people looking to install a stove freestanding. So when you say a freestanding stove, not in a fireplace, often against the wall. So the first consideration is with a freestanding stove, in our opinion, is distances to combustibles. If you've got a brick wall, then it's not particularly a problem. However, if you have a plasterboard wall or any combustible material, there is a set distance the stove has to be away from the wall, and each model will be different. Now, many freestanding stoves like this will have heat shield options or different bits built in to reduce that distance it can be away from the wall. For example, this one here, the Hampton Vista 500, which is in burnt grey, has the heat shield fitted at the moment, which reduces the distances to combustibles at the rear down to just 100 millimeters, which is very, very close. So if you're having it against a plasterboard wall, that's something really good to consider, the distances to combustibles. Now, you can also get units as well which have side heat shields as well, so back and side, which helps reduce the distances to combustibles at the side. Often for a corner installation, if the distance to combustibles at the side, for example, without the heat shield is 400 millimeters, this will be too close to the wall. So you can get stoves with side heat shields as well, which again reduce the distances down to combustible materials. Currently in our range, we have the Hampton 4, which has the side heat shields, which is a smaller unit. But this unit here, we are actually currently working on a side heat shield as well, which reduces the distances down. So in those sort of slightly niche installs where it's in the corner, very tight to the wall, that could be quite useful as well. So as well as distances to combustibles, you also got to look at the hearth as well. You've got to make sure that the stove is suitable to sit on a 12mm hearth. Now again, the majority of stoves which will be designed for sort of a freestanding setup as well will automatically be approved for the 12mm hearth, like this one is here. So that's the approvals considerations and the distances to heat output. And next we're going to look at kilowatt output. So what sort of size stove are you going to require? Now, often very much depends on the room size, but we would generally say to people is, can you get away with using a 5 kilowatt stove? The reason being, anything above 5 kilowatts will require an air brick in the room. And if the property is a new build, you're going to require a direct air feed as well. So with that in mind, you've always got to try to consider, can I get a 5 kilowatt stove in place? Now, many units, they're all different shapes and sizes. So 5 kilowatt stoves can be really quite small, but they can also be really quite big, like this one here. Now this has a 5 kilowatt nominal, but actually can go all the way up to sort of 7+ kilowatts as a higher end output. So manufacturers know these regulations and they know people want to stick below 5 kilowatt nominal. So they'll make bigger stoves and try and get them officially in that level of 5 kilowatts. So there's many stoves which can suit the bigger fireplace, but still have a the bigger room, but still have the 5 kilowatt nominal output. If that's not applicable to you, if you've got an air vent in the room and it doesn't bother and you want a big stove, then there's lots of choices for that too. Just pan to this one here, which is the Snug 7 with the stand. Now this one doesn't have a heat shield, so it's going to be a good distance away from combustibles at the rear, but if you've got a brick wall, it's not a problem. And it's also over 7 kilowatts and a multi-fuel as well, so there's another option for that too. But it's just something to consider if that is going to be applicable for you. So now we've got those steps complete, we're going to look at fuel. So this here is a wood burning only stove, so wood burns just on the base, generally with a bed of ash, and then the air comes over the top. Now we do generally recommend to really ask yourself, are you going to be burning anything but wood? Now many people I think like the idea of having the option of burning smokeless coal, but we often find they actually really don't. And it is advantage to have the stove which you're going to be burning most of the fuel on, because it will burn best in that way, because smokeless coal and wood require different conditions. Smokeless coal requires lots of air coming up from underneath to get the coals going, whereas a wood stove doesn't require any primary air, just a burst of air with the door open to get the stove going, and then it runs off the secondary and tertiary air systems anyway. So there is always that bit of a compromise. If you're buying a multi-fuel stove, it's trying to sort of do two things for two different fuels, which is absolutely fine. If you're going to burn a mix of both wood and smokeless coal and you want that option, then great, go for a multi-fuel. But if you don't think, and you really can't see yourself burning that much smokeless coal, then you are going to be best off going for the stove, which is going to burn your main fuel the best. And if that's wood, then the wood burner is going to be best for you. And in most cases these days, the vast majority of stoves are wood-only units. But if you want to have a quick look at what a multi-fuel unit looks like, it's just here. So just quickly open up the door for you. So if you can see here, you've got the ash pan, the grate underneath, and then the log retainer in here too. Now the advantage of this one actually, sorry whilst we're here, is the snug. You've got two separate grates. So you've got a grate in here, which has got very few holes in it, so actually lets a little air in underneath. So it's a good bit of a compromise and does burn both fuels very well. So that's fuel. So last but not least is approvals. Defra approved mainly. So if you're in a smoke-free zone in London, or if you're planning on installing the stove into a 5-inch chimney system, then the stove will need to be Defra approved. Now Defra approval also means the stove will not fully close off, so there'll be a little bit of air just flowing into it. That is a part of the Defra approval. But it's something to consider. You want to make sure you don't go buying the wrong unit and find out you're in a smoke-free zone and have bought a non-Defra model. Now most units these days are Defra approved, especially the more modern ones, but it's worth keeping that in mind. Now I hope that helps. There's always lots of things to consider, loads of different variables of everything, but these are the first key points we think that could help you get on the road to getting a stove. Thank you very much.